Your soulmate was caught last night. Who were they with? My beloved child, freeze this moment for just a heartbeat, because what you are about to hear is not arriving by accident. There is a reason your eyes stopped here today, and if you leave too quickly, you may miss the one detail that changes the meaning of everything. Last night, something happened that your soulmate never expected anyone to see. It was late. The world had grown quiet. Most people had already turned away from the day, believing nothing important was still unfolding. But beneath that silence, a meeting took place. Your soulmate was seen with someone, and from the outside, the scene looked far more suspicious than the truth actually was. Before you let fear create its own story, stay with me. Do not rush ahead. Do not let one image convince you that you already understand the entire situation. The most important truths rarely reveal themselves in the first moment. They arrive slowly, one detail at a time, and what happened last night carries a meaning that no one around your soulmate fully understands yet. Someone noticed them standing beneath the dim light outside a quiet place. They were not alone. Their body language seemed tense. Their eyes kept moving as though they were afraid someone might recognize them. There was another person beside them, close enough to suggest familiarity, yet distant enough to reveal that this was not an easy meeting. The two of them spoke in low voices. At one point, your soulmate looked away, as though the words being spoken had touched a place they had been trying to avoid. Then something unexpected happened. The mysterious person reached into their bag and handed your soulmate an object wrapped carefully in an old piece of cloth. Your soulmate stared at it for several seconds without moving. Their face changed. Every wall they had been holding up seemed to disappear for just one moment. My beloved child, do not close this message, because the identity of that person is not what most people would assume. The moment was witnessed from a distance, and by morning, whispers had already started moving from one person to another. Someone claimed your soulmate had been meeting a secret lover. Someone else insisted they saw tears. Another person said the mysterious stranger touched your soulmate's hand before leaving. Every version sounded convincing, but every version was missing the same essential truth. None of them could hear the conversation. None of them knew what was inside the wrapped object. And none of them understood why your soulmate had spent the entire week debating whether to attend that meeting at all. Have you noticed strange feelings lately? A sudden heaviness in your chest, a memory that appeared without warning, or a quiet sense that something was shifting beyond what you could see? These feelings are not proof of a specific event, but they may be inviting you to slow down and examine what your heart is trying to process. Sometimes uncertainty makes the mind run toward the worst possible explanation. But what if this situation is not about betrayal? What if it is about a chapter your soulmate has been trying to close before they can move forward honestly? Think about how many times people are misunderstood because someone sees one moment without knowing the years that came before it. A goodbye can look like a beginning from a distance. A painful conversation can look like intimacy. A final act of closure can appear like a secret meeting when the truth is far more complicated. Last night, your soulmate was not searching for something new. They were confronting something old. The person beside them was connected to a part of their past that had never fully released them. This was someone who knew a version of your soulmate from before they learned how to protect their emotions, before they understood the weight of promises, and before they realized how unfinished stories can quietly follow a person into every new chapter. For months, your soulmate had avoided this meeting. They ignored messages. They postponed conversations. They convinced themselves that time would eventually solve what honesty had not. But unresolved truths do not disappear simply because people stop speaking about them. They remain beneath the surface, influencing choices, creating fear, and making new beginnings feel heavier than they should. Last night, your soulmate finally decided they could not continue carrying that weight. They agreed to meet this person for one reason: something needed to be returned, and something needed to be said. My beloved child, pause for a second and breathe, because this is where the story begins to change. The wrapped object placed in your soulmate's hands was not a romantic gift. It was something that belonged to their family, something they believed had been lost years ago. Inside that cloth was a small box filled with old photographs, handwritten notes, and one letter that had never reached them. The mysterious person had kept it because they did not know when your soulmate would be ready to receive it. They had tried to return it before, but every attempt ended in silence. Last night, they decided there could be no more delay. Your soulmate opened the box beneath the streetlight, and the first photograph they saw brought back a memory so powerful that they could no longer hold their emotions in place. That is why witnesses saw tears. That is why their face changed. That is why the conversation appeared so intense. It was not the beginning of a hidden romance. It was the return of a truth that had been waiting for years. Stay with this message, because the letter inside that box carried one sentence your soulmate was never prepared to read. It was written by someone who had once known them better than almost anyone, someone whose absence shaped the way they approached love, trust, and vulnerability. The letter did not accuse them. It did not ask them to return to the past. It simply told them that they had spent too much of their life running from people who genuinely cared because they were afraid of being abandoned first. Your soulmate read that sentence again and again. Suddenly, the choices they had made began to look different. The distance they created. The conversations they left unfinished. The moments they acted cold when they were actually overwhelmed. The times they convinced themselves they did not need anyone, even while their heart quietly wished someone would stay. Last night, they were forced to see a pattern they had never wanted to admit. They had been protecting themselves from pain, but that protection had also kept them from receiving love. And as they stood there holding that letter, one person came into their mind more strongly than anyone else. You. Do not scroll. Your heart needs this right now. Your soulmate thought about the way you offered understanding without demanding perfection. They remembered the times you sensed something was wrong even when they said they were fine. They remembered how your presence brought calm into moments when their thoughts were full of noise. They remembered the patience you showed when they were difficult to understand. Until last night, they had treated those moments as if they were ordinary. But after reading that letter, they finally understood what they represented. You had been offering them the emotional safety they claimed they wanted, yet fear kept convincing them to stand at a distance. The mysterious person saw the change in your soulmate's expression and asked one simple question: who are you thinking about? Your soulmate did not answer immediately. They looked down at the letter, then toward the empty road, and for a long moment, silence said what their voice could not. Finally, they spoke your name. It was quiet. Almost a whisper. But the moment they said it, something inside them shifted. The person beside them did not seem surprised. In fact, they smiled gently, as though they had been waiting for your soulmate to admit the truth to themselves. Then they said something your soulmate has not been able to forget since. If that person brings you peace, stop punishing them for wounds they did not create. Those words landed with incredible force. Your soulmate realized they had been measuring your intentions through the pain of people who came before you. They had been expecting you to repeat mistakes you never made. They had been waiting for disappointment instead of allowing themselves to recognize devotion. The mysterious person was not trying to pull your soulmate away from you. They were trying to free them from the past so they could stop destroying the future before it had the chance to begin. My beloved child, listen carefully, because this next detail is the reason your soulmate looked so shaken when they left that meeting. Before walking away, the person beside them revealed that someone else had been asking questions about you. Not negative questions. Not questions meant to cause harm. Someone had noticed the way your soulmate's energy changed whenever your name was mentioned. Someone had seen how they became quieter whenever conversations turned toward love, honesty, or regret. The mysterious person said, "You are not hiding your feelings as well as you believe." Your soulmate wanted to deny it, but they could not. Their silence had already become an answer. They had spent months pretending they were unaffected, yet the truth was visible in the smallest details. The way they remembered things you said. The way they searched for your name without reaching out. The way certain songs caused them to stop what they were doing. The way they compared every new conversation to the peace they once felt with you. Last night did not create those feelings. It exposed them. And once a hidden truth is exposed to the person carrying it, pretending becomes almost impossible. Your soulmate returned home after midnight with the box still in their hands. They sat in the dark for a long time, replaying every word from the meeting. They thought about contacting you immediately. They opened their phone, found your name, and stared at it. Their thumb hovered over the screen, but fear returned with one final question. What if they had waited too long? What if your heart had already healed beyond the point of wanting an explanation? What if you had learned to live peacefully without them? That fear stopped them from sending the message, but it did not remove the desire. Instead, it forced them to confront something deeper. They realized they did not only miss you. They regretted the version of themselves that had been too afraid to love you honestly. They saw how many chances they allowed to pass because pride made silence feel safer than vulnerability. They remembered moments when you needed clarity and they gave you confusion. Moments when you offered softness and they responded with distance. Moments when your heart was asking for honesty and they hid behind uncertainty. For the first time, they did not create excuses. They simply admitted that fear had controlled them. Stay with me, because what happened next made the night even more unforgettable. As your soulmate continued looking through the box, they discovered a second letter hidden beneath the photographs. This one was addressed directly to them, but the date written at the top was recent. Very recent. It had been written only a few days before the meeting. The mysterious person had added it after finding out something about your soulmate's current life. In that letter, they wrote, "You keep speaking about someone without realizing how often you mention them. You describe their kindness, their patience, and the way they see through your defenses. You may call it confusion, but from the outside, it looks like fear of losing something real." Your soulmate read those words and felt their heart race. They had not realized how much they revealed whenever they spoke about you. They thought they were being careful. They thought they had hidden the depth of their feelings from everyone. But the people around them had already noticed. The truth was showing through every crack in the walls they tried to maintain. This is why last night mattered. It was not a night of betrayal. It was a night of exposure. Your soulmate was caught, but not in the way rumors suggested. They were caught facing their past. They were caught admitting your name. They were caught recognizing that the connection they tried to minimize had become one of the most meaningful parts of their emotional world. And now the secret they wanted to protect is beginning to move toward the light. Do not rush to imagine what happens next, because there is still one unanswered question. Who exactly was the person they met? The answer is connected to an old promise, a family secret, and a chapter of your soulmate's life they have never explained to anyone. That person knew why your soulmate runs when love begins to feel real. They knew what happened years ago that taught them to expect abandonment. They knew why your soulmate kept the safest parts of their heart locked away. But most importantly, they knew that your arrival had begun changing those patterns. Before leaving, they gave your soulmate one final warning. You can continue protecting yourself from the possibility of pain, but one day you may realize you also protected yourself from the possibility of happiness. Those words followed your soulmate all the way home. They are still echoing now. This morning, they woke with the same phone beside them and your name still waiting on the screen. Something is different inside them. Not everything has been solved. Fear has not disappeared completely. But the truth has become stronger than the excuses. They know silence cannot continue forever. They know the rumors may soon reach you in a distorted form. And they know that if you hear the wrong version first, the distance between you could become even harder to cross. That is why they are considering doing something they have avoided for a very long time. They are thinking about telling you everything. Not only who they were with, but why the meeting happened, what was inside the box, and why your name was spoken beneath that streetlight. Yet before they can reach out, one more truth is about to surface. Someone captured a photograph from that night, and the image shows a detail no one noticed while the meeting was happening. A small symbol was visible on the box your soulmate carried home. That symbol connects the mysterious person to someone from your soulmate's family, someone whose story has been hidden for years. When your soulmate discovers what that symbol means, the meeting from last night will take on an entirely different meaning. It will explain why that person knew so much about their fears, why they chose this exact moment to return the box, and why they seemed certain that you were not an accidental part of your soulmate's life. The story people are telling is only the surface. The real truth is deeper, more emotional, and far more unexpected. Your soulmate was caught last night, but who they were with is not the greatest mystery anymore. The greatest mystery is why that person appeared now, why they carried a message about you, and what they know about the future your soulmate is still too afraid to face. Hold on to this story, because the night may be over, but the truth hidden inside it has only just begun to reveal itself. Don't scroll. Stay with this story for just a little longer, because the photograph from last night has now revealed something no one expected to see, and the truth behind that mysterious symbol is about to change the meaning of everything. My beloved child, pause for one heartbeat before your mind rushes toward the worst conclusion. What looked like a secret meeting was never the full story. What looked like guilt was actually shock. What looked like emotional distance was the moment your soulmate realized that a hidden chapter of their family history had been quietly influencing every relationship they ever tried to build. This morning, the photograph began moving from one phone to another. Most people focused on the same thing, your soulmate standing beneath the dim streetlight beside someone they could not identify. But one person noticed something else. In the corner of the image, partly hidden beneath your soulmate's hand, was the small symbol carved into the box they carried home. It was a simple mark, almost like two circles joined by a thin line with a small star above them. To everyone else, it looked decorative. To your soulmate, it looked painfully familiar. They had seen it once before, many years ago, on the back of an old photograph kept inside a locked drawer in their childhood home. At the time, they were told never to ask about it. They were too young to understand why the adults in the room became silent whenever that picture appeared. But now, after all these years, the same symbol had returned in the hands of the person they met last night. Listen carefully, because this is where the mystery becomes deeper. Your soulmate took the box into the morning light and examined it more closely. Their fingers traced the carved symbol, and suddenly a memory returned with astonishing clarity. They remembered standing in a hallway as a child, hearing two family members arguing behind a closed door. One voice said, "They deserve to know the truth someday." The other replied, "Knowing will only make them afraid of becoming like us." Your soulmate never understood those words until now. For years, they believed the emotional distance in their family was normal. They believed love was something people felt but rarely expressed. They learned that vulnerability created danger, that promises could disappear without warning, and that the safest person was the one who never needed anyone too deeply. Those lessons were never spoken directly, but children learn from silence as much as they learn from words. Your soulmate carried those beliefs into adulthood without realizing it. Every time someone became important, they felt the urge to pull away. Every time love began to feel real, they searched for reasons it might fail. Every time you offered them emotional safety, a hidden part of them whispered that safety never lasts. They thought those fears belonged only to them. But the symbol on the box suggested something else. It suggested those patterns began long before they were born. Don't scroll. Your heart needs this right now. Your soulmate immediately called the mysterious person from last night. Their voice trembled as they asked, "What does the symbol mean?" There was a long pause on the other end. The person did not sound surprised. In fact, they sounded as though they had been expecting that question all morning. They told your soulmate to return to the same place before sunset, but this time they would not meet outside. There was a quiet room inside the building, a room connected to the history of the box, and the answers waiting there could not be explained properly over the phone. Your soulmate wanted to demand the truth immediately, but something in the person's voice made them stop. There was no threat in it. Only sadness and an urgency that felt strangely protective. Before ending the call, the person said, "Bring the letter, and bring the photograph with the symbol. There is something you need to compare." Those words stayed in your soulmate's mind all afternoon. They tried to continue with their normal responsibilities, but nothing felt normal anymore. Every conversation sounded distant. Every minute moved too slowly. They kept thinking about you. They wondered how many times their inherited fear had caused you pain. They remembered moments when you asked for simple honesty and they reacted as though you were asking for too much. They remembered how quickly they became defensive whenever you came close to the truth. They thought they were protecting their independence, but now they wondered if they had simply been repeating a family pattern they never understood. My beloved child, pause here, because this realization did not make your soulmate feel hopeless. It made them feel responsible. For the first time, they understood that the past may explain their behavior, but it does not have to control their future. They could no longer blame timing, confusion, or circumstances for every distance they created. They had a choice now. They could continue living by fears handed down through generations, or they could become the first person in their family to choose honest love over emotional escape. And the moment they thought about choosing differently, your face appeared in their mind again. Not as a fantasy. Not as a perfect answer to every problem. But as the person who had already shown them what patience, truth, and emotional consistency looked like. By late afternoon, your soulmate returned to the building from the previous night. The street looked ordinary in daylight. Cars passed. People carried groceries. Someone walked a dog nearby. Nothing about the place suggested that a life-changing truth was waiting inside. The mysterious person opened the door before your soulmate knocked. Up close, they looked exhausted, as if they too had spent the night confronting memories they had avoided for years. They led your soulmate down a narrow hallway into a small room filled with old books, framed photographs, and locked cabinets. On the far wall hung a faded picture of several people standing together beneath a large tree. Your soulmate froze. The symbol from the box was carved into a wooden sign above them. And among the faces in the photograph was someone your soulmate recognized immediately, a relative who disappeared from their life when they were very young. No one ever explained where that person went. The family simply stopped mentioning them, as though silence could erase someone from history. Stay with this story, because what came next answered one question and created several more. The mysterious person pointed to the photograph and said, "That symbol belonged to a private support circle your family created many years ago. It was meant to help people who were struggling, especially those who felt trapped by fear, grief, and broken relationships. But something happened. A disagreement divided the family. Promises were made, secrets were kept, and eventually everyone chose silence instead of healing. Your soulmate listened without moving. The person continued, explaining that the relative in the photograph had once tried to reveal a painful truth about the family. Generations of people had been taught to leave before they could be left, to hide pain rather than discuss it, and to treat love like a weakness that could be used against them. The relative wanted the cycle to end. Others believed speaking openly would bring shame. The conflict became so intense that the relative walked away, taking the box with them. For years, they kept the letters and photographs, hoping someone from the next generation would eventually be ready to understand. That person was your soulmate. Don't scroll. Listen carefully, because your soulmate then asked the question they were most afraid to ask: are they still alive? The mysterious person looked down. Their silence carried the answer before their words did. The relative had passed away recently. Before they died, they asked that the box be delivered only when your soulmate formed a connection strong enough to challenge the old pattern. They had heard about you through conversations, through the way your soulmate mentioned your patience, your honesty, and the peace they felt around you. Even without meeting you, they understood that your presence had awakened something the family had spent years suppressing. You had made your soulmate want closeness while fear kept telling them to run. That inner conflict was the sign the relative had been waiting for. It meant the old cycle had finally reached someone who might have the courage to break it. Your soulmate felt tears rise again. Last night, they believed the box was simply returning a piece of the past. Now they understood it was also placing responsibility for the future into their hands. The mysterious person gave them another envelope. This one was sealed with the same symbol. This was meant to be opened only after you understood the first letter, they said. Your soulmate hesitated before breaking the seal. Inside was a short message written in the same familiar handwriting: when you meet someone who offers peace, do not punish them for the chaos that came before. Fear will tell you to leave before they see your weakness. Love will ask you to stay long enough to become honest. The choice will feel terrifying because it is different from everything you were taught. Choose differently. Your soulmate read the words slowly, then covered their face with both hands. Every confusing emotion from the past few months suddenly had a name. They had not been uncertain about you. They had been afraid of what loving you required them to change. You did not create their fear. Your sincerity exposed it. You did not make them feel trapped. Your emotional openness made them realize how deeply they had been hiding. You did not demand perfection. You simply made it harder for them to continue pretending. My beloved child, this is the truth your soulmate is only now beginning to accept. Sometimes people pull away not because they feel nothing, but because they feel something powerful enough to challenge every defense they have built. That does not excuse confusion or inconsistent behavior, but it explains why the connection affected them so deeply. Your soulmate left that room before sunset carrying the box, both letters, and a completely different understanding of themselves. The mysterious person walked beside them to the door. Before they parted, your soulmate finally asked, "Why were you chosen to bring this to me?" The person smiled sadly and revealed the detail no rumor could have imagined. They were not a secret lover. They were the child of the relative who had disappeared from your soulmate's family years ago. In another life, under different circumstances, the two of them might have grown up knowing each other as family. But secrecy separated them before they ever had the chance. They had found your soulmate only recently, after discovering the final instructions inside the box. Last night was the first time they had ever met face to face. That is why the conversation looked intense. That is why there were tears. That is why there was familiarity mixed with distance. They were not ending a romance. They were discovering a family connection hidden by years of silence. Your soulmate stood there speechless. Every rumor now felt almost cruel in its simplicity. People had seen two individuals beneath a streetlight and created a story about betrayal, while the truth involved grief, family, healing, and an inheritance far deeper than anyone could have guessed. Before leaving, the mysterious person said, "The photograph circulating may force you to explain something before you feel ready. But maybe that is not entirely bad. Your family lost years because everyone waited to feel ready. Sometimes courage begins before comfort arrives." Those words followed your soulmate as they walked home. The sky darkened slowly, and the same streetlights that had exposed them the previous night now seemed to guide them forward. They opened their phone again. Your name was still there. This time, they did not immediately close the screen. They began typing. First they wrote a long explanation, then deleted it. Then they wrote only, "Can we talk?" but that felt too small for everything they needed to say. They stared at the blank message box, realizing no perfect sentence could carry the full truth. What mattered was beginning. For several minutes, fear and courage fought inside them. Fear said you might misunderstand. Courage said you deserved the chance to decide after hearing the truth. Fear said the past had already caused too much damage. Courage said silence would only create more. Fear said they might lose you. Courage whispered that refusing to speak had already been moving them in that direction. Don't scroll, because this is the moment everything began to shift. Your soulmate finally typed, "There is something from last night I need to explain, but there is also something about us I should have admitted much sooner. I was not with who people think I was with. The truth is connected to my family, my fear, and the reason I kept pulling away whenever you came close. You did not deserve the confusion I gave you. I am ready to tell you everything, even if the answer changes what happens next." Their finger hovered above the send button. For a moment, the entire world seemed to pause. Then another notification appeared before they could send it. Someone had posted a clearer photograph from last night. This image showed the mysterious person's face, and a member of your soulmate's family had already recognized them. Within seconds, the phone began ringing. First one relative. Then another. Messages arrived asking where they met that person, what they knew, and whether they had opened the box. The secret that had survived for years was breaking open all at once. Your soulmate realized they were no longer deciding whether the truth would surface. They were deciding whether they would guide it with honesty or allow rumors to shape it again. Something inside them became unexpectedly calm. They sent the message to you. Then they turned toward the family calls waiting on the screen. For the first time, they were not running. They were ready to ask questions, demand honest answers, and refuse to carry inherited silence into another generation. But before they could answer the first call, a final message arrived from the mysterious person. There is one more photograph inside the lining of the box. You need to see who is standing beside your relative. Your soulmate set the phone down and returned to the box. They searched along the faded fabric until their fingers found a small opening hidden beneath the edge. Inside was a photograph folded twice. They opened it carefully, and the moment they saw the face beside their relative, their breath stopped. It was someone still present in their life today. Someone who had always denied knowing anything about the symbol, the box, or the family separation. Someone your soulmate trusted completely. On the back of the photograph were 7 handwritten words. Ask them why they made us disappear. My beloved child, the truth about last night is no longer only about who your soulmate was with. It is about who hid this family history, why they protected the secret for so long, and what they were afraid your soulmate would discover. The meeting beneath the streetlight has opened a door that cannot be closed again. Your soulmate has finally reached out to you, but before they can explain everything, they must confront the person in that photograph. And when that confrontation happens, one final truth will emerge. The secret from the past is connected not only to your soulmate's fear of love, but also to a promise made about the person they would one day choose. The box contains one last hidden message, and your name may already be part of the story in a way neither of you ever imagined. What happens next will decide whether your soulmate continues repeating the past or finally becomes the person courageous enough to create a different future.